Welcome to another episode of Fantastic Comic Fan Presents. Today I have Braxton Cosby, who does Cosby Media Productions, Starchild Comics. He's a first time guest. So, Braxton, every time I have a person on that's the first time, I always ask them an origin story. So, what got you into comic books and made you a lifelong fan?
Yes, I think first of all, thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it. I've been a long time comic fan since I was a little kid, and I can remember going back to even reading when I used to have the comic pages in the newspaper. I would read comics back then with Archie and Jughead, those types of things, and then eventually comics started getting to on TV, and I remember the Sunday funnies as I was growing up with the still pictures of like Thor and the Hawk and things like that, and then eventually I was so excited when they started having the electric company and they had Spider-Man come in and every now and then on those episodes, so I was a huge comic book fan, just superheroes in general back then. And then as I grew up, they had shows like the super Spider-Man and his amazing friends, and then they had Justice League with Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman. And so I just can recall just being so excited about the stories that are being told with these superheroes. And a friend of mine back in fifth grade actually started writing his own comic, and I was like, "Man, how'd you do that?" And he told me, and then so I started playing around with doing my own comic. Back then, it's like maybe like 5 pages. I came up with these superhero characters that I was really intrigued with, and so I kind of got away from comics back then. Went through college, got my degrees, and went out into the workforce, and just kind of left writing alone in general. And it wasn't until 2010 that I got this calling to go back into writing and creating. And it was in church one day, and the pastor was preaching, and he was like, "Hey, I feel like God wants to use some people out there who are listening to do something special, but nobody's asking." And I started praying. I was like, "Okay, God, what would you have me do?" And lo and behold, most people say I heard this little voice in my head say, "Write a book." And I was like, "What?" I'd never gotten into writing, was never interested in writing, but I did read, somewhat. And I remember I was like, "Well, what would I write?" And I specifically heard like all those things that when you go to see a movie or your favorite TV show, like I don't know about you sometimes, but I'll look at a show and go, "Man, that was really cool, but I wish they had done this, or I wish they kind of gone this direction with it. That would have been really cool." The voice said, "Do those things." I heard God just kind of say, "Hey, do those things, put them in your story, make it yours." And so I remember scripting out my first synopsis and outline of a story that I had in my head. Um, and it was Protostar, which is my first book that I wrote, a science fiction romance novel. And man, I started researching what it took to get a book published, getting a literary agent, actually directly soliciting two publishers. And I got this small publisher here in Atlanta, Georgia, who took a chance on me. We got the book done, published it in about 8 months, and ended up winning Reader's Favorite Book of the Year award for sci-fi young adult romance. And that was it. And now here I am, 20 books deep, 5 screenplays I've written, and 6 comic scripts. And I just continue to love the evolution of story and making characters and putting them in situations where you bend them, but you don't break them. And you just keep building on those stories and these series that we have. And what we built here with Cosby Media Productions is just a great stable of over 30 authors with 60 different titles and ebooks, audiobooks, and paperbacks. And we've just got these worlds. So we spawned our own comic imprint, which is Starchild Comics. And our logo is our mantra that we live off of is "Come play in our world," because we have series on top of series that we just feel like once people get their feet wet and dive in and start to kind of explore these stories and these worlds we've created, we really feel like we have something special that people will enjoy.
So I read that you are a dreamer with a vision of continuously evolving and maximizing the untapped potential of the human spirit.
Uh-huh.
Explain that a little and how those just aren't words for you.
They're not. I just believe that as these spirit beings that have a soul that lives in a body, we have so much more potential than what we really tap into. And I feel like a lot of times people just waste the opportunity of being alive and just being here. And my thing is, hey, while you have this opportunity, why don't you do something with it? So I have always kind of framed my life of having my job that pays my bills, allows me to live and invest in my passion. And my passion is writing. I just love it. I love creating stories. I love building those stories. I love trying to take those characters through challenges and turns and work on that hero's arc with three act structure and all of the things I do, whether I'm writing screenplays, whether I'm writing books, or whether I'm writing comics. It's all about structure and format to me. So I just feel like whatever it is that people want to do, like find that dream, hone the skills that will make you at least play around it. And maybe you don't accomplish your biggest dream. Maybe you don't become some New York Times best-selling author like me. You know, I haven't reached that yet. But maybe I can win some awards. Maybe I can share my stories with other people. Maybe I can have people come back to conventions year after year and say, "Oh man, I loved what you did with that story. What's your next story? What's your newest? What is it about?" You know. And so I'm living my passion out by just exploring and tapping into other people and having them read these stories with these characters that I've come to know and love. And that's what all I want to do is just continue to share.
So, in a nutshell, what is Starchild Comics all about?
Starchild Comics is really just building. All we want to do is just keep building. We have a belief that if you build it, they will come. People will come, but you've got to have the stories ready. When people come there, they want to say, "Hey, you know, I want to pick this up and read about stories like Metatron by Lawrence St. John, you know, or something that Kaio Champion has done with Majesties of Canaan and African Ninja Vampire Killers, which is ANVK. Really crazy, amazing story that always puts a smile on people's faces when I talk about it, you know. Or maybe they just like something like manga, you know, and that's something a story that is written by a very talented author Chris McCauley with his Nexus Astrum series. We just want to put out stories that people feel like they connect with and that they're excited to read and find the next connection in that story. What's the next part of this? How does this story evolve? How do these characters move through this continuum? So Starchild Comics is all about being independent, making the stories that we feel are important and that have unique storylines that people are going to find something familiar, but they're going to engage in something totally different that's going to take them on another path. So we're really proud of what we've done since 2021. Now we've up to 12 issues. We have a couple of stories that are on their second issues, and now we're working on the third issues. And so we feel like, you know, hey, if you like comics and you like good stories and you like original artwork by some fantastic artists that we've recruited in our team, we have a team of about 5 different artist groups who are working constantly on the stories that we're telling. You have a great place to settle in if you come and find out what we're doing.
So, how do you get Starchild Comics? Are they available at your comic shop, or do you have a digital platform? What's the best way to get them?
Best way to pick up any of our comic books is to go to our website, which is basically our parent company, Cosby Media Productions, small press company out of Atlanta, Georgia. Go to the website. If you love comics, we have our online store. You can go to Starchild Comics and go to the online store right there. It's going to show you all of what we have available. We're a hybrid publisher as well, where we publish our stories in both novels and comics. So somebody may start reading, for example, Nexus Astrum, like I said, from Chris McCauley. It's a manga novel. You know, you start off with the novel, and it's got beautiful manga style with the 5x8 size, and then you can jump right into the comic book, which is Nexus Astrum, the comic. You know, and so we continue to tell stories like that. I've got the Broken series where it starts off with the novel, goes into the comic book is the second book of the series. The third book is a 60-page graphic novel, and so forth and so on. So we want to continue to tell our stories in that way because it makes us unique. A hybrid publisher that's doing something a little bit different and giving people options of what they want to read and what they want to enjoy. Because entertainment is about media, right? You may be a TV head, or maybe you're a movie head, or maybe you like comics or novels. But we feel like we've got a little bit of everything, and that's why we also pride ourselves in having audiobooks as well, so people can enjoy storytelling in the way that they like to do it.
So, if a person's not into books or audiobooks and they're just into the comic books, or they're just in one of, not all of mixed together, then they still
Right.
get a good story out of everything?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, it's all about structure, 3 act structure. Every comic book you pick up, even if it's connected to a novel, if you will, it's going to have an act one. It's going to have an inciting incident that gets that hero going on that journey. It's going to have act two, where they're going to build with all these circumstances and these challenges. And there's going to be a midpoint in that story where everything seems like it's winning or it's losing. And then there's going to be a shift towards the end of act two, where that character is now have to decide if they're going to really go on with this journey, this mission, whatever it is, come up with a new plan. And then that slams you into Act 3, where you finally come up against the resistance, whatever it is, or that antagonist. So you're going to get a complete story in each one of our comics. But if you want the origins, you want more information, you want to get the foundation of everything started, you can always go back and pick up the novels. And what we did is making it easy for people. Something like Majesties of Canaan by Kyle Champion. This represents book 3 of the series because it's the comic book. But if you get through reading it and you want to pick up the novels, well, we put them right here, real easy for you. You got a QR code, you scan that, it'll take you to the page on the website where you can actually pick up the novels as well.
So how many Starchild comics are there currently?
12. There's about 12 copies, 12 different issues that we have. And one is the Cape Hellfire's issue 1, and issue 2 for Cape is the Fabulous 5. We're currently working on issues 2 and 3 of ANVK, and also issue 2 of Steel Rain, the Bounty Hunter series. So most of the comics are one issue right now, with the next issues in the series being worked on.
So how does the Broken series fit into all this?
Broken is an amazing story. It follows the story of Kisa Donovan. The year is 2035. All-out nuclear war. Everybody on the planet has just nuked one another. You know, it's all-out nuclear war. People who survive have moved to the coastlines for fresh water, trying to find stability and pick up the pieces of their lost lives. Over 70% of the population has been destroyed from this all-out nuclear war. And those who have survived, a percentage of them who ingest the ashes of the nuclear fallout turn into walking zombies. We call them ashers in our world. Another percentage who they lose their mind, kind of get wild. They scavenge the land for resources, kill you on sight, almost like the Mad Max characters, or if you played a video game Borderlands, something like those guys. Those are called hoarders. And then also 1% of the population, they actually get super skills and abilities unlocked where they can see the future. They have dreams and visions. Those are called alphas. And as we start to go through the story, we realize that Kisa may be one of these alphas. And she has been subjugated to living in a slave pod in Savannah, Georgia, because there's a group called the Establishment who has actually taken over, because money no longer has any value. So now they trade people for currency. So they basically activated slavery all over again, but it's a class-based system. Doesn't matter ethnicity, gender, sex, anything. It's about the haves and have-nots. So now she's in the slave pod. She's become a surrogate parent to her little brother Kieran. She's 16, he's 11, and she's now contemplating what she's going to do with the rest of her life. She has heard rumblings of a resistance movement that is taking place outside of the slave pod, and now she has to make a decision if she's going to try to escape with some of her friends who are in the pod with her, or continue to stay in the mundane life that she has been forced to live in. And obviously, with it being a series, you know she makes the right decision. And that the events of that book leads you into the comic book, which is issue 1 of the Broken series, which I have right here. And that is where events take place immediately after the cliffhanger event that happens in the novel. The artwork is done by a very talented artist named Ram Silva, and my colorist and inker is Luis Caballero, who's amazing as well. And those events lead you into the 3rd iteration of Broken, which is my 60-page graphic novel that I touched on earlier.
So do you write all these things, or are you more like an editor-in-chief?
Oh, no, I am. For the stories that I've told, all of my stuff is written by me, the novels, the comics, and everything. We do have some other authors who are very talented. Like I said, they have their own novels with their comics that go with theirs. But everything that I talk about specifically, especially like something like Broken, I write the scripts for it. I direct the panels, the designs of the characters, everything from scratch. And I just give it over to much more talented people who can do the art for me.
So what type of fan would you consider your perfect audience?
Anybody who, I think gamers and comic book aficionados are really going to love the stories that I tell, because obviously I've grown up as a gamer too, since ColecoVision and Atari 2600. I've been playing games for my life, so I really love to tell stories that are vivid, action packed, but also have those things that tug at your heartstrings and give you a really, really solid B story that you can connect to, so that these characters become more than just characters on paper, but they actually become people that you feel like you actually personally know. And so anybody who's like those gamers who play like Borderlands and Fallout and things like that, they would love Broken. If you love superhero series, and of course you're gonna, especially something like The Cape, or even like what Zack Snyder did with Justice League, where his superheroes were a little bit more grittier and serious. You would love something like what I do with The Cape. The Boys kind of reminds people of what I've done with the Cape series as well. And if you like a serious bounty hunter kind of style series, then the Steel Rain series is something that you probably want to pick up as well.
So, what do you got coming out for the rest of 2025?
Yeah, 2025 is good. Right now, we're in a push. We're going to all of our conventions right now, picking up our conventions. We're going to be on the road for about 6 conventions for the rest of the year. We've got Atlanta Comic Con in our back pocket right now. That's going to be happening actually actually in July 18th. But the rest of the year, we're just still pushing out because Broken, the graphic novel, just came out early this year. We're still pushing that. We're pushing out the second issue of The Cape, the Fabulous Five, artwork, inks, and letters done by um, uh, Salazar, Marcelo Salazar, very, very talented guy. So we're still pushing that stuff. But what I'm working on now is a duology of historical fiction and a graphic novel, which is part of that series. And it's based in feudal Japan. A very, very fascinating story that I'm working on. It's my first foray into historical fiction, but I'm really, really loving it and the angle that I'm taking with it. So that's going to be finished up before the end of the year, and we'll be rolling that out next year.
All right. Before we wrap all this up, we've talked about a lot of things. Is there anything that I missed that you wanted to talk about?
I want people to introduce them. I want to introduce people to Cosby Media Productions. If you're looking for anything that's new, unique, we've got a plethora of stories to tell. If you go to our website, cosmemediaproductions.com, and you scroll right down the center, we have everything by genre. Makes it really easy for you to navigate. If you like poetry, you can pick up poetry. If you like fiction, science fiction, fantasy, high fantasy, middle grade fantasy fiction, young adult fiction, like biographies or even inspirational, we have all of that right there. Makes it very simple to navigate. And the links even take you externally to places like Barnes and Noble or Amazon if you want to pick up the digital versions of, or even the paperbacks of those versions of those stories as well. But we just want to introduce everybody to a new small press publisher that is just only trying to make fantastic stories for everybody to enjoy.
Braxton Cosby, Starchild Comics, Cosby Media. Thank you very much for joining me for this podcast. We'll see about getting you on in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.